welcome to week 3 of our Kingdom Groups. I'm excited to be part of the teaching this week. I'm excited about this conversation that we're having of how is God's kingdom coming into our daily lives. Last week we talked about how our stories connect with the stories of other people, and those then are in the big story of God, our King, coming to rescue us. God brings all of these stories together in a way that we can see Him at work in our lives. So I hope that you had a great opportunity to see that and live in that reality this past week. Now, this week in week 3, we want to focus in on this key point that the kingdom of God is good news. That when God shows up in our life, when God's kingdom comes to us, that is good news. Now, I don't know if the average person or even the average Christian thinks of God coming into their life as particularly good news. We might think it means I've got to go to church more, I've got to be a better person, a better husband, a better wife, a better friend, a better student, a better worker. I have to stop doing this thing that I know I should stop doing. It's as though when God shows up, the fun is sucked out of our lives and we remember all these things that are wrong with us, that we wish we could change about ourselves or that we should be doing and we aren't doing. Yet when Jesus describes God's kingdom, He doesn't describe it as God showing up and giving us a to-do list. Jesus describes the kingdom as a wedding banquet. He describes it as a treasure that's hidden in a field or as a pearl of great worth. Jesus' actions also describe the kingdom this way, where as people come to Him, the blind see, the lame walk, the deaf hear, the poor have good news preached to them. See, when Jesus finds people and when people find Jesus in His ministry, He doesn't tell those who are getting beat up by life, well, you just need to try harder. When God shows up, when Jesus shows up in our lives, He doesn't come to condemn us. He comes to save us. He doesn't come to pile on guilt. He comes to remove our guilt through a cross where He paid for it and through the empty tomb where we know we have God's forgiveness and we have God's blessing because of what Jesus has done. In Matthew 6, Jesus says, "Seek first God's kingdom and His righteousness." Now, I have often taken that to mean I need to put God first in my life, which is true. God is to be at the center of our lives. But in Matthew 6, it's not exactly what Jesus is getting at. He's saying, seek first God's kingdom and encouraging us so that we can see this truth we've been talking about these past few weeks, which is that God is always at work in our lives. And God's kingdom is constantly present. So when Jesus says, seek first the kingdom, He's not trying to put more pressure on you and me. He's trying us to see that God is constantly present in our lives and that God's presence means good news for us. God's not coming to put pressure on us. He's coming to take pressure off of us by reminding us of just how much we are loved in Jesus, whether we're succeeding or whether we're failing. And this truly is the best news that we or anyone else could receive. In your groups today, you'll get a chance to talk about some time that you've received good news in your life, unexpected good news that just made your day. You'll also get to think about people in your life who could use some good news. You know, whether it's someone who's lonely, whether it's someone who is stressed and overburdened by things in life, whether it's someone who just lacks the basic necessities of life like food and shelter or clothes, and maybe there's some way, you know, that you could bring good news into those people's lives. And I'm not saying this to put pressure on you, What I'm saying is that as we just sit and enjoy the truth of the good news that we have in Jesus, that God truly loves us, that God comes into our lives not to condemn us, but to save us, not to pile guilt on us, but to remove our guilt, we're going to want to share that good news in one way or another with the people around us. So have a great discussion today thinking about good news that you've had in your life, especially the good news of Jesus, and then how God might be calling you to share some good news with the people in your life.